Shalom, this is Levi Shore. Welcome back to Sweet and Good Torah. Today we're going to talk about the Parsha Shelach, which is sometimes called Shelach Lecha, and it means send for yourself, send for you. All right, so let's jump right in and let's see what it says. So the first psukim, the Parsha starts like this. It says, "Vayidaber Hashem al Moshe lemor." So Hashem spoke to Moshe, saying, he said, "Shelach Lecha anashim v'yasuru es Eretz Canaan. Asher ani nosein livnei Yisrael." So it says, "Send for yourself men, and they will spy out the land of Canaan, which I gave to the children of Israel." So then Hashem gives advice. He says, "Ish echad, ramate avosav." So you'll send one man from each of his father's tribe. Tishlachu kol nasi vahem. And you're going to send leaders. You're going to send princes among them. So then we see later on in further pasuk that it says, "Kulam anashim rashe v'nei Yisrael hema." That all of these men, that they were the heads of Bnei Yisrael. They were the heads of the children of Israel. So these men all started out tzaddikim. We had 12 men, 12 tzaddikim, the princes of each tribe, and we had Yeshua ben Nun, and we had Kalev ben Yefuneh. And Yeshua was the head of the tribe, I think, of Yosef of Ephraim. And then Kalev was the head of the tribe of Yehuda. And only these two out of the 12 were going to come back with a favorable report of Eretz Canaan, as it was called, the land of Canaan, as it was called. And now it's known as Eretz Yisrael, the land of Israel. And only these two men were going to resist whatever temptations and a test in Amunah that these other 10 men fell a victim of, and they came out with a lashon hara, or a diba, as the Torah used the term a diba, which means lashon hara. They came out with evil words, a bad report about the land of Israel. So I'm going to try to understand how that's possible. So let's go a little further. So Moshe gave them advice. Moshe told them to see the land. He said, "What is it?" He said, "Mahi, what is it?" He says, "And look at the people that dwell in the land." He said, "Are they strong? Are they weak? Are these people few? Are they numerous? And how is it that they live in the land? How is it living in the land? Is it good or is it bad?" And then he says, "And what are the cities that these people dwell in, they live in?" He said, "Are they open or are they fortified?" So if they had fortified cities, Moshe was giving that as a clue that they were weak. And only when they were living out in the open, these people were strong and they could defend themselves. They didn't need fortified cities. And then he asked, is the land, is it shmeina, is it fertile, or is it raza, or is it lean, is it not fertile, is it barren? And then he asked if there's a tree in it. He asked if there's an eitz in it. I believe that's a reference to the Eitz Chaim, the tree of life. It's going to be a more advanced discussion, so we're going to stay away from that right now. Maybe we can talk about that B'ezrat Hashem later. And he says, strengthen yourself. He says, chazaktam, strengthen yourselves and take fruit of the land. And then specifically, Hashem lets us know that when these spies went into the land, it was Yemei Bikure Anavim. It was the days of the ripening of the grapes. I think this is another reference to the Eitz Chaim, which Chazal said in the Gemara that it may have been a grapevine, and they went in, they spied out the land for 40 days, and then it says that they vayavohu ad nachal Eshkol, and they came to this valley of Eshkol, and Eshkol usually means a cluster of grapes. You'll see how that's going to come into play. Vayich resu misham zemora ve'Eshkol anavim echad v'yasa uhu v'amot Vishnayim, umin harimonim, umin ha-te'eni. So they cut a zamora, they cut a vine, and it had an eshkol of anavim, it had a cluster of grapes. And then it says they carried it on a pole by two, and then pomegranates and figs. All right, so Rashi explains that when it says by two, let's see if I can find it. It says vayisauhu vamot bishnayim, and they carried it on a pole by two. So what does that mean? So mimashmash nemar. So what it implies is that it says vayisauhu vamot. They carried on a pole. Eini yodea shehu bishnayim. So am I not aware that it's carried by two people? If it was on a pole, why does the Torah have to say two people? So Rashi explains, he says, Ma tamalomar bishnayim. What does it mean when the Torah says by two? It says bishnei motos, that it actually took two poles to carry this gigantic cluster of grapes. And then, haketzad, so how did they carry these two poles of this giant cluster of grapes? Shmona natlu eshkol, that 8 of the spies, they took hold of these two poles and lifted up the grapes. And then echad natal te'ena, v'echad rimon, and then one of the spies held a pomegranate and one held a fig. And even those were probably very massive that a person had to like put it on his shoulder and hold it. So we see this miraculous growth. The land is really rich, and then the Torah tells us it's zavas, chalav udavash, like it's flowing with milk and honey. Okay, so let's start to look into this and explain and try to understand what's going on, and how is it possible that they could have come out of Eretz Yisrael without the most miraculous report. So finally, let's just get to what the spies said, the 10 that were going to speak Lashon Hara about Eretz Yisrael. Sorry that I lost my place, so we'll just try to find that real quick. And then when the spies came in front of all the Jewish people, in front of all Bnei Yisrael, this is what they said. So they said, Vayisapru lo, and they said to him, they said, Vayomru banu el haaretz, Asher Shelach Tanu. So first they were speaking to Moshe. They said that we arrived at the land which you sent us. V'gam zavas chalav v'davash hi v'zeh pirya. And it says it is flowing with milk and honey and its fruits. So Rashi tells us something interesting, that they start off saying it flows with milk and honey, and it says kol davar sheker, that any lie, any false matter, she'ein omrim bo, Kitsas emes, that anything that doesn't say any lie that doesn't have a bit of truth in it, a little bit of truth, bitzachilaso, at its beginning, ein miskayim besofo, it doesn't hold up at the end. No one will believe it. So you see this a lot with politicians. So they're going to put some truth into what they're saying, and then they're going to spin it to whatever they want to say or what they want to try to get people to do. So any lie, it has to have some truth in it, or people just completely will just like shake it off and say that's, it's not true at all. So then they go in and they say that the people that live in the land are very powerful, the cities are fortified and large, which is interesting because Moshe told us the siman, this clue before, that if the people were in fortified cities, they actually weren't so strong. Only when people didn't need the security of the walls was a very strong people. And then they say that they saw the Anak, they saw the giants, or the children of the giants, and Amalek lives in the south, and Amalek is the great enemy of the Jewish people. And then they saw the Chiti, the Hittites, and the Yavusi, and the Emori, and they're living on a mountain. And then the Canaani, the Canaanites, they're living by the sea next to the Jordan, next to the Jordan River. Okay, so let's see what we can do here. So what happened? I mean, how you have 12 Siddiqim that go into Eretz Yisrael, and then 10 are coming out, and they're giving this Lashon Hara about Eretz Yisrael, and they're admitting that it's flowing with milk and honey, and we'll explain that in a second, and they bring out these amazing, gigantic fruits, so it's like there's going to be plenty of food, and it's miraculous growth of food. So how could they possibly be giving this bad report about Eretz Yisrael? And how did the Jewish people, how did they cry when they heard this news, and why did they believe it? And I believe this was the night of Tisha B'Av, and this created a day of mourning where both the first temple and the second temple, they were burnt down on that day, first by the Babylonians and then by the Romans, and it became a national day of mourning. And I believe we have some kind of Masorah that eventually after Mashiach comes, this will be turned around, and maybe it will have some date that will be significant to the rebuilding of the third base of Mikdash, the third temple, or some redemption for the Jewish people will happen on Tisha B'Av. But until from this day, with the spies report, until now, it's been a day of mourning for us. So how is it possible? So first thing, let's look at the beauty and the wonder of Eretz Yisrael, and then how is it possible that they didn't give this glowing report? So one thing, what does it mean flowing with milk and honey? So one is the obvious, the sign of physical abundance, that the cows are going to give off so much milk. The milk's going to be flowing out, and there's going to be this physical abundance. And beyond that, milk is very interesting because when a baby is born, Hashem arranges it that the baby can drink milk from the mother, and the baby drinks milk in this warm, loving embrace, and it's the kindest way that a person can be fed when they're little and they're vulnerable, and it's Hashem showing us that Eretz Yisrael is gonna sustain us from this milk from Hashem, and it's gonna be this kind, loving embrace of a parent. Hashem is our Avinu Shebashamayim, He's our Father in heaven, and we're gonna feel this love and this embrace when we're in Eretz Yisrael, and it's also gonna be sweet. Not only are we gonna get this physical sustenance, but it's gonna be sweet like honey, and there's gonna be also, I think, the spiritual equivalent, that the Torah and the wisdom of the Torah and the mitzvos, they're going to flow, and it's a land of this Kedusha. It's a land where the holiness, the Kedusha is there, and it's in the air of Eretz Yisrael. And so not only do we get this physical milk and honey, we're going to get this spiritual milk and honey that flows there, and the Torah will flow out of Yerushalayim one day. It says... And that's one aspect of the land. And then Eretz Yisrael is known for these 7 fruits. It's renowned for its wheat and its barley, its grapes, its olives, its dates and figs and pomegranate. And these fruits grow miraculously and great in Eretz Yisrael, and they'll get better and better. And when we start learning more Torah and doing more mitzvos, and when we have the Beis HaMikdash, all the land will reach its potential on a physical level. And it'll begin increasing on the spiritual potential that's there. Now, another thing that's miraculous about Eretz Yisrael is where the temple stood on the Har HaBayis, on the Temple Mount. We're going to go into Kabbalah just briefly, that there's a thing called the Kav, and Hashem is an infinite being, and Hashem's everywhere. And there is a part of Hashem in this infinite existence that's called the Ein Sof, that's just the pure essence of Hashem. Now, then Hashem created a thing called the Tzimtzum, where he began to constrain himself, and he began to hide his essence more and more, and then he hid more and more in these spiritual worlds. He created a chain of spiritual worlds, infinite amount of spiritual worlds going from him down to all the way down to us in this physical world. And each step down, Hashem is more and more hidden, until finally we reach the physical world, where Hashem is the most hidden. And it's here in this hidden physical world where now we have a choice. We have the Bechira to choose between Tov and Ra. We can choose between good and evil. And Eretz Yisrael, in the place where the Aron HaKodesh, where the Ark of the Covenant sat, and the golden Keruvim were on top of it, and the Torah scrolls that Moshe wrote, and the Luchos, the sapphire tablets that Moshe received from Hashem, all these are inside the Aron HaKodesh. And this is where the Shekinah, Hashem's presence, spoke to Moshe and gave Nevuah to the Jewish people. And it sits in the middle of Yerushalayim, on the Har HaBayis, in the middle of Jerusalem, on the top of the Temple Mount, in the place where the Aron HaKodesh sat, where the thing called the Even Shatia, the stone of foundation. And it's there that this Kav comes from the Ein Sof. It's the unbroken, pure light and essence of Hashem that comes into all the worlds and sustains all the worlds. And that point where it touches the physical world is in the middle of Jerusalem, in the middle of Yerushalayim, on the Har HaBayis, fills Eretz Yisrael, fills the land of Israel of Kedusha, and then all that blessing, all the bracha that comes down, all the Kedusha goes out from there to the whole world. So Yerushalayim is the heart, it's Lev Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim is the heart of Eretz Yisrael. And Eretz Yisrael, the land of Israel, is the heart of the whole world. And the world sustained from the spirituality that sustains and gives life to the physical, and it comes down there. So how did they not see all this? How did they not feel the Kedusha? How did they not see the miraculous growth of all these fruits? And how could they possibly come out with this negative report? And I think one aspect, as I believe there's a midrash that says that one thing they were concerned with was a lack of kavod, that they were princes of each tribe. They were the leaders of their tribes. And they were worried that if they came into the land of Israel, they would lose their positions. They were worried about their own positions and being the leaders, and that there's a mitzvah to appoint a king when we come in and conquer the land of Israel. Then we're supposed to appoint a king. It's one of the mitzvahs, one of the 613 mitzvahs. And they were worried about their own stature and their own leadership, and they weren't thinking about everyone else and what's best for them, what's best for the Jewish people. So that's one aspect. But I want to focus on something else. And I think one thing that's very important and it's missing from this world right now is gratitude and appreciation. And I think this is what hurts our emunah. Because if we just think back to that generation, they were slaves in Mitzrayim and Egypt, and they saw 10 miraculous makos, the plagues that Hashem brought on the Egyptians that were tormenting them, and then Hashem separated between them and the Egyptians, so they saw that it was a miracle that they weren't being affected, they were being sustained and blessed as their enemies and their tormentors were being punished. They saw that. They saw the splitting of the Yam Suf. They saw in the Midbar, they saw when they went to Mara, this bitter water turned sweet, and they could drink it. And they saw, just all the wonders of like the manna coming down every day, this miraculous like bread falling from Shemayim. They saw all these wonders, and they saw that Hashem was taking care of them every day. And then in the holiest place, in the place where there's most kedusha, the most holiness, and the place that is meant for the Torah and the mitzvahs to be learned and performed, and the place where the Beis HaMikdash, the temple, is meant to be built, and the Shekhinah will live in, the Beis HaMikdash, and that we will live in this very close, loving environment with Hashem. It's like this lack of appreciation of everything that Hashem had done for them that maybe led them to not see the beauty of the land of Israel and not see how much Hashem loved them and not see how all this was being done for them. And I think we feel this to such a great extent, and I feel like in our relationships with other people, it's something like we all need to work on, just being grateful for what other people are doing for us every day, and get out of ourselves and start looking at all the kindness that's being done for us by other people and really appreciate it and be thankful and thank other people, and really see every day that Hashem is giving us a place to live. He's giving us food. He's giving us clothes. He's giving us, the ability to earn a living. He's given us intellect where we can communicate, where we can learn wisdom. We can learn the Torah and see exactly how we're supposed to be living in this world, how we can get the most out of this world. And I think it's just that gratitude is what's causing so much friction and fighting, and it's just, but a person with gratitude is the appreciation, the gratitude opens up the gates of happiness. It opens up so much to that person. And when you start appreciating everyone around you and what they're doing for you, you feel more loved, you feel appreciated, and you feel your life, you live a happier life. Instead of, what this person didn't do for me, or what didn't happen, or this or that. But when you see what is happening and what is good, and looking at the good in others and the good around you, the world miraculously changes. And may we all merit to see the coming Mashiach and live in Eretz Yisrael, live in the land of Israel, this beautiful land that, if you notice, all the nations of the world are beginning to turn their attention to Israel, and they even deny that Hashem promised it to us, and they deny it's ours. And why? Why all this interest? Because it is the most valuable land in the world. It is the heart of the world, and it is the greatest gift. And it's ours. Hashem is waiting to give it to us. So good Shabbos. Hope you enjoyed it, and hope to see you soon. Sweet and good Torah.